Peace, family. This is Lions Den with another news and commentary. I'm doing an update of the situation in Israel when 18-year-old Solomon Tekah, I did a story about him about a month ago when basically the Israeli police officers shot and killed him unjustly at a playground with his friends after they tried to break up a fight. Really, basically, that's what the story was told, which turns out that he was indeed tried to, resolve the situation. Um, but then it turns out that the Israeli police officer, get this, he was on house arrest, but guess what? He wasn't in his house. He was at a hotel. But he was released on house arrest. And then they dropped the manslaughter charge and said involuntary manslaughter. So I'm going to go ahead and play this, and then I'm going to continue the rest of my commentary.
At least 7 people have been arrested in Jerusalem with renewed protests underway, with an Israeli police officer who shot dead a 19-year-old Ethiopian Israeli in Haifa today released from house arrest. Now, the officer, who's not been publicly named, was off duty when he shot Solomon Tekah at the end of last month. He says that he was trying to break up a street fight when 3 youths hurled rocks at him, endangering his life. He says he fired at the ground and did not target anyone. Now, the shooting sparked massive protests across Israel, most turning violent. The case reigniting claims of racism by law enforcement. Today, a special Knesset session was convened on Israel's Ethiopian community, with Tekah's family in attendance. I-24 News caught up with the victim's cousin at a protest at the Israeli parliament.
He must have justice. Trust me, we are fighting for justice. This kid in the playground was killed in cold blood. The officer who killed him needs to be brought to justice. We're not violent people. We want the law enforcement to uphold the rule of law.
We are here today to make ourselves heard and to shout that we are an inseparable part of Israeli society and we deserve protection like every other citizen. If it had been another youth who wasn't of Ethiopian origin, I'm not so sure a gun would have been pulled, and this is why we're protesting, on the ease of pulling out a gun.
Staying on this story, and social activist and lawyer Elias Inbram was joined today with Jeff Smith on the Daily Dose earlier, claiming that the Israeli police are creating a narrative just to free the officer. Let's take a listen.
I think that the police investigation, they are creating a narrative just to release and to let free the officer. We disagree with that. We think that also that they created a new paragraph in the Israeli law called manslaughter, like killing someone by mistake.
Yes.
There is no mistake here. He took the gun and shoot straight to the guy. This is not a manslaughter. This is not a manslaughter. This is a killing. At least he has to get a few years in the jail. You know what? If they are legislating new laws or new paragraphs, maybe they can kill us by saying this is euthanasia. Take us to Switzerland or take us to Kiryat Chaim and call it euthanasia. It's ridiculous. And by the way, where is the Jewish communities in diaspora? They did a lot for the Ethiopian Jews to immigrate to Israel, but when it comes to racism, they are quiet. In America, they are quiet. In Europe, they are quiet. They are quiet everywhere. And that's really sad. You know why is that sad? Because we, as a Jew, always fighting against the anti-Semitism. But the BDS and all the anti-Israeli organizations, they can tell us, you are racist. Don't claim about anti-Semitism. And we have to fight against racism first before we fight against anti-Semitism.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You see what's going on? They're doing the same thing here in the United States about police officers killing unarmed black men and women. Now it happened in Israel. An Ethiopian Jewish person. I mean, he's turned his. I mean, he said he's 19, but it's really 19 years old. He just had his 19th birthday, hanging out with friends. Obviously, a police officer, and this is what the police officers claim with they claim that they shot him by mistake. The gun went off, ricocheted, and hit his chest. But there's some other witnesses said that didn't happen like that. They said that the officer was taunting him, and then he put a gun out, and when you try to break up a fight, instantly that's when the Israeli officer shot and killed him. And then all of a sudden, and you see, the thing of it is this is what's happening around the world. This is not just happening here in the United States. It happens around the world. It proves time and time again that racism exists. And obviously it happens in South America, it happens in Africa, in Asia, and in Israel. This is a European Jewish community. And the thing of it is that they still fight for justice for the death of Solomon Tekah, which basically all he did was try to break up a fight, and all of a sudden the Israeli police officer shot and killed him. And then he used the same tactic, like here in the United States of America, will come the police here that says that I fear for my life. They always use that. Now, this kid shouldn't have been killed that day. He was only 19. And obviously, Solomon Tekah's parents is fighting for justice. They're trying to see what they can do with Israeli just passed a law about manslaughter. They just passed a new law. Isn't it funny that every time something happens, they pass a new law? And obviously that the officer is now, what I told you earlier, that they changed it from manslaughter to involuntary manslaughter and not murder. So this to me shows that racism, and even though it happens in Israel, we're talking about they immigrated Ethiopians to become Ethiopian Jews in Israel, but there's been racism in Israel. It's always happened. They talk about anti-Semitism, but obviously they're not even bringing up racism in the country of Israel. And like that activist said, in Europe they're quiet. Here in the United States they're quiet. Israel they're quiet when it comes to racism in their countries. So it's obviously what's going on, that Solomon Tekah has been murdered by Israeli police. They want to cover it up and try to not identify who the officer was that killed Solomon Tekah. And then they said that they put him on house arrest. And it turns out that the house arrest wasn't even at a house, it's at a hotel room. So, but then they released him on house arrest. So you see, just like here in America, the country of Israel is fighting for justice for Solomon Tekah as well. And obviously that now the families are coming out. You see protests is happening daily in Israel, in Tel Aviv, and in Jerusalem because of this incident. So ladies and gentlemen, tell me what you think. Like, click, subscribe, and remember to click the notification bell for all the news and commentary. With that being said, this is Lions Den signing off. Deuces.